Right, to the matter at hand. I have received some complaints about JJ from the other students.
They're jealous.
They are. Of his constant, unpunished, insanely obvious cheating.
What?
What happened?
Okay. Sorry, I'm just hyper emotional right now because when the police first arrived, they treated me like I was some kind of drama queen.
You tend to be a little overdramatic.
You tend to wildly overreact.
You suck.
Oh, I suck? Whoever said that sucks!
Is this your wife?
Terry. Surprise inspection.
Oh my God, Kenny! How did you even get into here?
I have my ways. The back door was unlocked. The dishes are really piling up, by the way. I am so close to slapping you right now. Want to share a hoagie? Welcome to Welltopia, you national treasures. Oh, man. Welcome to... Welcome to Welltopia, you...
I think we got it. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Oh, that's good. That's so good. He handed the boy his test score. A lone tear slid down young HJ's face. A phrase fought its way to the boy's lips. He summoned his strength and uttered his first words.
Your script sucks!
Damn it, Greg, where are you? There's been a spill. Oh, hi, Veronica, it's nothing.
Hi, Phil. Actually, you're the reason I'm here.
Oh, really?
Yes, you can go now.
But
I'm here to talk about you, not to you.
I'm sorry.
So here for the first time since 1990, when his sister graduated from Wyoming Seminary, Jonathan Slavin. Jonathan?
Thank you. Wow. Hi. This is odd. Thank you very much. Thank you, Julie, so much. Julie, we jumped through so many hoops to get me here. We've been talking about doing this for like 4 years. So I'm really glad that it finally worked out. Thank you, Michael. Where are you? My husband, Michael, for pulling clips together. I was like, it has to be really short. And he was like going way, way back, and it was like 17 minutes long. And I was like, yeah, no. So thank you for pulling that together. Hi. Thank you guys also for being here. I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to give me attention. I know that especially in the last month of school, it's a miracle that you're coherent. So thank you for being here and being coherent. And I promise to move really, really quickly. I sat through a lot of assemblies when I was a student here, and a couple of them were awful, and I'm going to try not to be one of those. I do a fair amount of speaking to kids, but generally they're a tiny bit older than you guys, and usually they're LGBTQ specific, so I don't have to watch my mouth as much, and that's good because I have a terrible mouth, but I am convinced that I can get through this without cursing even one time. I was gonna pack a jar and do like a swear jar. What's your name? Ava. Ava? So you're gonna be like my swear jar. If I curse, I'm gonna like give you money, and I love my money, so I'm gonna try not to do that then. Great, and I have some notes here. Do you guys still have to take public speaking? Is that still, yeah, great, yeah. Well, I took public speaking here with a woman named Marianne Hopkins, and oh, that's right. But she said you do not ever show up for a speaking engagement without stuff written down, so I have my tablet, and I will be referring to that. So yes, so I did in fact graduate from SEM in 1987, a million years ago, and I want to say that Sem is where I learned my work ethic. It's definitely where I learned time management, and it's actually where an amazing man named W. Carver Collins put me on stage for the very first time. Honestly, had I been told when I was a student here where my work ethic would take me, the people that I would get to work alongside, people like Drew Barrymore and Ken Jeong and Oscar nominee Minnie Driver and Oscar winner Marlee Matlin and both the Duff sisters, I mean Haley and Hillary, come on. I would not have believed you. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about that sort of voyage, and though my journey is sort of entertainment industry specific, I think you can apply it to anything if you are someone who has goals and aspirations, and hopefully you are. So I did graduate from Sem, and like many students that graduate from here, I went to college, but I actually did not stay in college. Sidebar, nothing that I say today is meant to be advice or like me preaching or telling you what to do in any way. Some of it may come out that way, but I'm just telling my story. I have no interest in sitting up here and lying to you, so this is what I got. But really, it's not advice. So I went to college for a second, just outside of New York City, but I knew really, really quickly that it just wasn't for me. I really knew what I wanted to do with my life. I was very focused on that, and much to the horror of my parents, I was just sort of unconcerned with having a backup in case this insane dream of being an actor did not work out. I really wanted to kind of just get started and get what I thought of as an on-the-job education, and that actually is, for better or for worse, what I got. I am a very big believer in making my own choices and sticking by them, but there is a downside to that, which is that you don't get to be a victim or blame anyone else when things are hard. And that sort of does suck, because blaming someone else is so much easier, and there were times when things were really, really hard. I mean, being 19 or 20 years old and living by yourself in Manhattan and not knowing a lot of people and working 3 jobs so you can pay your rent and be in a show that maybe 6 people are going to see and getting dumped by your French ballet dancer boyfriend and ending up with mono is not the easy way. But it was my way, and I chose it. So sadly, I had no one else to blame. I do want to just segue away from acting for 1 second, because I want to talk about those first couple of years in New York from a different perspective. This was in New York in the late 80s and early 90s. And I was a young gay person, and what that meant was that a lot of people around me were dying rather horribly of AIDS. And because AIDS was mostly killing gay people, the government wasn't doing a ton about it, and that was not okay with me. And so I learned very, very early on how to raise my voice for civic activism, how to march and protest. The very first time that I marched anywhere was the second National March on Washington for lesbian and gay rights in October of 1987. So that was, I mean, I was your age. It was like, what, 3-4 months after I graduated from here. And then right after that, I joined a group in New York called ACT UP, which if you don't know who ACT UP was and you're interested at all in that, you should look them up. ACT UP changed the face of gay rights, but more importantly, ACT UP really changed how this country dealt with HIV and AIDS, and it was an amazing thing to be a part of. And I think we're actually seeing right this minute what can happen when people, especially young people, especially people your age, sort of raise their voice for a collective cause. So, you know, social media is a presence, and I get it, and I participate in it, but I think it can be super easy to post something angry or tweet something political and feel like, there, I did something, but like you didn't do anything. And so do something, march and protest and do something. This is the preachy part. Yeah, I am preaching. Okay, great. And I'm saying that, by the way, to the people that would march on my side and also the ones who believe something completely different. Like, fight for your beliefs, take it to the streets, take action, do something, always. Okay, let's get back to the narcissistic world of acting, shall we? So I'm in New York, and New York is great, and New York is awful, and New York is everything I want it to be, and yet New York is also terrifying, and so I'm basically scared all the time. And then, you know, I did some theater, and I went on tour for a minute, and then I got kind of my first big job in New York, which was a Broadway show called The Sisters Rosenzweig. And I was 21, and I was significantly younger than most of the people who were in the show, and I was working with people who were really extraordinary at what they did. You know, when in any field, when someone is just a master of something that they do. One of the women in the show would actually go on to win a Tony for her performance in the show. And what I did was I would sit in the theater, much like you are now, and I would watch the rehearsals, and I would write down everything that they were doing. And that kind of became my classroom. That sort of, it became my college. I want to be clear on this, and I wrote it down so that I would be clear. There it is. My decision to not seek a degree did not mean that my education stopped. It just meant that my education was now going to be completely up to me, which is in some ways harder. You know, it definitely came with its own set of challenges, but everything that I'm saying about the work that I applied to my career can be applied directly to academia. This concept of working hard, it's not new. I just want to make sure you guys don't like go home today and tell your parents like, this homosexual came to school today and said don't go to college, because that's not at all what's happening here. Great. So I did that show for a year, and then I got asked to do another show in Dallas, Texas, and I went and did that. And then I came back to New York, and I had to kind of take stock of where my career was. And I was becoming like a decently known New York theater actor, and people would ask for me for to come in for stuff, but it was like very tertiary roles. The really good roles and really great things were going to people who were kind of well known. And around that time, I met an agent who was visiting New York from Los Angeles, and he offered to represent me, and what that means is that he'll send me out for auditions. And so I packed up my life and I moved away from my apartment and my friends and the guy I was dating, and I completely started over in Los Angeles. And I lived in a really sketchy apartment building, really sketchy, in the heart of Hollywood, and my apartment literally had a bed, a phone, and a hot plate. And it was really hard, but I really had only myself to blame. Yes, now, LA, where I live now. Very different than New York, if you have not been. And for an actor, really, really different. In New York, like, people are actors for some different reasons. LA, I always sort of describe LA as the place where, like, the best looking people from every high school in the country, you know who you are, you move to LA to, like, be stars. So I would go on auditions in LA, and I would basically be like a waiting room full of models and me. And yet I started getting jobs. You know, I worked hard and I got some jobs, but they were like little jobs. I was sort of the unnamed guy in a bunch of different things. I was like flower delivery guy and bike messenger guy and stabbed cut open pizza guy, and like nothing big, nothing huge. But what those jobs afforded me was an opportunity to be on a set and see how different a medium film and television are from theater, because they're very different. Film and television is a super technical way to work. And I took notes and I wrote down what performers did, the same way that I did when I was doing Sisters Rosenzweig those 2.5 years before. I got to watch people who knew what they were doing, and they were my professors. So LA was going okay. It's all right. A lot of little jobs, nothing major, nothing great. And then one day I was sitting on the beach with the man that I would eventually marry, and I was working on a pretty big audition. I had the script and I was working on it and I was running through it, and I got super dramatic and I like crumpled up the script and I hurled it down the beach. And Michael was like pretty unfazed, because and he was like, so what are you doing? And I just freaked out and I was like, they're never gonna use me. Like, I don't even know why I'm going in for this. I'm too ugly and too gay and I should just move back to New York, and everybody hates me here and they want a really conservative preppy guy, and this is just stupid. I'm not gonna be successful here. And he's pretty good at navigating my crazy. And what he said to me is, well, yeah, no, you're totally never gonna get that job. And I was like, and he goes, you're not conservative and you're not preppy. That's not what you do. So why don't you just do something with the role that you wanna do? And I had actually kind of forgotten in the pursuit of what it was that I did, why it was that I did it. I had forgotten that I went into an artistic field because I'm an artist. I went into an artistic field because I have a point of view, because I have a voice, a specific voice, because I have something to say. I always say, like, Van Gogh didn't paint the starry night he thought they wanted. He painted the starry night he saw. And so I went into that audition room and I painted my starry night. And I got that job. And that show shot in front of a studio audience. Do you guys know what that means? It's like how Big Bang has like people laughing because they're watching the taping of it. It was like one of those. And because it was the first episode back from a second season of a kind of a well-watched show, the network was there. And when they brought me out for my bow at the end of the night, the audience stood up and cheered. And NBC was like, who's that guy? And that kind of led to my first series, which led to my first setback, which led to my next series, which led to the next and the next and the next. And through it all, I just keep working and I just keep going, because that is actually the thing that I am most good at, is the keeping going. There are very few people that I work with who don't want to work with me again. The show that I'm going back to, Santa Clarita Diet, that is run by a man who I did a show called Andy Richter Controls the Universe and a show called Better Off Tied with Him. And I'm thrilled to be back doing a bunch of those episodes next year. Speechless, I think there were clips up there from Speechless. I was supposed to do one episode of that, and I've done like 14. And the reason for that is I think there are like 3. I'm nice to everyone, which not everyone is. I'm pretty low maintenance. I have my moments, but generally I'm pretty low maintenance. And I work really hard at what I do. There are a lot of actors out there who don't sort of do the simple task of even learning their lines. And I would never disrespect my work that way. For starters, I really love what I do for a living. Like, I love what I do for a living. The actual work. I'm not talking about like the stuff that looks really cool. I'm talking about like getting a script and breaking it down and figuring out what I want to do with the character. That is the stuff that just fills my soul. There's a very old saying that's choose something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And that saying is a lie. It doesn't matter what you choose. There's a cost, there's a price. The cost of what I do is, it's a lot of things. It's that sometimes I have no life outside of work. It's that sometimes I have to leave everyone and everything that I love and move across the country to start a new life. I don't get sick days. There's no such thing as a sick day. I have to be able to do my job no matter what's going on in the world. I actually shot an episode of a show on September 12th of 2001. It was before I had even found everyone that I knew in New York, and after I had found that someone had actually, that I loved, had been killed in the towers, and I had to go to work and shoot and be funny. That's the job. The hours are crazy. I work 15-hour days, 5 days a week, and then my weekend, Saturday is spent recovering, and Sunday is spent prepping the upcoming week. So I don't ever see people, and people get mad at you. Like my friends are like, you just don't care about that. I'm like, so tired. Shut up. But that's my life, and I chose it, I love it, and I work really, really hard at it, and that is something that I learned to do here, which takes me back around to my life at Sem, which I do want to talk about for just a second. Because I am telling you the truth, I need to say that I was, probably somewhat unsurprisingly, very weird when I was at Sem. Like, very weird. And not particularly well liked. And I am talking to all of you right now. Some of you are going to hear what I'm saying, and some of you are going to hear what I'm saying in like 5 years. Sem is where I learned how to act on a stage for the first time, but Sem is also where I learned how to act for survival. I acted like a straight person for my first 3 years here. Senior year, I kind of unapologetically dated a boy. I acted like I didn't mind spending a lot of time alone. I acted like I didn't care when people called me awful things. I acted like a person who didn't have an eating disorder. When one of my teachers frequently and openly made fun of gay people in class, I acted like he wasn't talking about me. This was a really different time in the world, and I think it's different for you guys now. I hope it is. But what I do want to say is that if you are able to just be yourself today, if you are able to 100% be your authentic self, congratulations, I am delighted for you. But if you are hiding yourself, if high school, if life, if just this moment is difficult for you, I promise you it will be different. I will say that one more time. I promise you it will be different. If people are unkind to you, it's, in my experience, because people are afraid of what's shiny and different, and I think your job is just to be shiny anyway. If no one has told you this today, you are not only worthwhile, you are spectacular, and this world needs you. If you ever need to be reminded of that, I hope that you can find someone who will remind you. You would be amazed how many kids reach out to me, like on Instagram, and ask me to remind them. Find me there. I will remind you. I get it. I sort of lived through that, and I not only survived it, I thrived. And I actually have the life today that I always wanted because I have the life today that I earned. It wasn't easy. It isn't easy, but I chose it, and the reality is that I really, really do love my life. So, use your voice, fight for what you believe in, be nice, be kind, do it, shut up, I'm telling you. Be of service to the world around you. Figure out what makes you, you, and do that. Make your choices, take responsibility for them, and do not be ruled by fear. You get to tell your story, you get to decide, bless you, what that is. So make your story a good one. I really do want to thank you so much for listening today. Ava, you don't get any money from me. I'm so sorry. Do you guys have any questions or anything that you want to know? I'm clearly a pretty open book, so what do you got? Anything?
Come on, questions? Anyone?
Isn't that the worst? Like, I remember like everybody be like, ugh. But really, like, it's fine. How long?
I think we have 3 minutes.
We have 3 minutes because I talked really fast. Yes.
Could you talk about the changes in the industry with the advent of streaming media like Netflix and Hulu, and how has that affected your work?
Sure. Yeah, it's really different. First off, one of the biggest effects is financial because you make a lot less for those things. It used to be you would do a TV show and every time it runs, you make money. We were just talking about, I did an episode of Friends like a million years ago, and I've made like so much money off of that because every time it runs on television, they have to pay me. Digital media, unfortunately, when my union was negotiating that contract, they weren't aware of how big it was going to get, and so I make pennies on stuff like that. But what it also has done is it's created much, much more content, so there are more jobs. So it's sort of, on the one hand, you get a lot less for the job that you do, sort of in perpetuity, because it doesn't rerun in the same way that it used to, but there are more jobs, so there's more opportunities to kind of make that money right off the top. Also, I think that streaming media is making content that networks wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. The Victor Fresco, who does Santa Clarita Diet, who is just one of the smartest, most interesting writers and showrunners I've ever worked with. I love him so much, it's crazy. He will never do another network television show again after working with Netflix because they let him do his job. They kind of, Netflix backs way off. A lot of the streaming medias do. They hire you and they let you do your job. Networks, they micromanage everything. Like, I don't know, do we need that chair? I feel like we went around that chair a bunch and then no one talked about the chair. Do we need a line about the chair? Like, it's bananas, the stuff that sort of the ABC, CBS, and NBCs of the world focus on. And Netflix tends to back off. So there's been good and bad from the streaming media, but I think more good, for sure.
What episode of Friends were you in?
Well, it's one of the, I think it's towards the...
Maybe repeat the question.
Oh, what episode of Friends was I in? It was one of the last seasons. Thanks, Mom. It's called the what? Yes, thank you. Because I was like, dinosaurs, something. It's the one with the memorial service. It's, I guess, the storyline in a nutshell is Phoebe asks Monica to keep her away from the Paul Rudd character. And she can't, and then at the end, they're together, and Monica's like, all like, kiss him, it's great, and then I come bursting in, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be keeping them apart. I'm like his friend who's supposed to keep them apart. I have long, awful hair. I just done a show for 2 years where literally, they were like, you know what'd be funny? If we make you look as awful as possible all the time. So don't cut your hair, and then every 6 weeks, we're gonna just take a straight razor and just hack a piece off. And I lived like that for 2 years, and Friends was right at the end of that. So I really, if you see it, you'll be like, yeah, that's some bad hair. That's bad. Yeah.
What's your favorite show you've ever been in?
Oh, that's really hard. My favorite show I've ever been in. I loved doing Better Off Ted. I don't know, that it has a sort of a very specific fan base, but it was a very weird it was way ahead of its time. I was part of a duo on it, and the guy who played my lab partner is a guy named Malcolm Barrett, who's on Timeless now. And he's just one of my favorite actors I've ever worked with. The scene with Portia de Rossi, that was from that. It was really smart. We were all friends, but not in a weird way where we couldn't eat lunch alone without offending somebody, because it was just the perfect, at the end of the day, I was like, I can't believe they're paying us for this, because it was such a great job. So I'd say that, Better Off Ted. Yeah. Yes.
In what ways did the Sem Theater prepare you for the industry?
The Sem Theater really did prepare me for the industry. I don't know, you guys are all too young to know Mr. Collins. I know Jason knows Mr. Collins. He was really demanding as a theater director. Probably in some ways more demanding than some of the professional jobs I've done. If you laughed on stage, he would ring the curtain down on you. Whereas obviously I'm super unprofessional at work sometimes. I think there was a blooper in there. But it was, anything you do, you get better at. I mean, whatever you do for an hour or two a day, you're going to become an expert at. And so being here and being in plays and having to learn lines and having to understand blocking and figure out beats and stuff, just investing time in that, it made me know how to approach material, how to approach the work. And I think I know lots of people do theater at Sem who don't want to go into theater, but I still think that those tools are really valuable. Memorizing is a huge part of life. It's so weird. Math is not, by the way. Remember? I'm so sorry. Sorry. No, I always think it's funny because our math teachers used to always be like, I know, but our math teachers always used to be like, it's not like you're gonna have a calculator with you all the time, and it is. So.
Maybe one more question.
One more, yeah, anybody else? One more question, not about math, I'm sorry, yes. To work with Ken?
Yes.
Working with Ken Jeong, I did a show with him for the last 2 years. We did a show called Dr. Ken, which was nothing like The Hangover. It was very family friendly, but Ken is not. He is bananas in the best possible way. He is my family for sure. I love him with all of my heart. He is extremely disciplined, works harder than probably anyone that I know. You would sort of think oh, it's just all comes off the cuff, and some of it does, but that guy, the hours that he puts into his work are staggering, even to me, and I put a lot of hours into my work. I'll tell you, when I auditioned for that show, he was in the room, and he was laughing so hard during my audition that I had to stop. And there's a lot of really crazy people in my industry, in every industry, but especially in my industry, people who kind of don't want the people around them to be good or funny. And so you try to, you're careful, oh, I don't want to get too many laughs because then the lead of the show is going to be mad at me. And where Ken was always I knew when I left that audition that I really wanted to do that show because I knew that he would always want me to be my best. I knew that he would always want me to be funny and and I love playing off of somebody else, and he's so generous, and he will do, I mean, obviously, he will do anything. Anything. I wrote a film, and it looks like it's sort of in pre-production right now, and I've already said to him, like, I have one scene, could you, and he's like, yeah, whatever you need, like, whatever you need, whatever, and I know that he'll do it. He's a great guy. He's intense, more intense than you would think he is, probably, but really one of my favorite people. Yeah, good guy.
Okay, I think that's it.
All right, perfect. Thank you guys so much.